Hello friends, today I am going to discuss the text of Pablo Neruda's famous poem Tonight I Can Write. In the previous video there is an introduction on the poet, on the poem, setting of the poem, literary censorship and the line by line analysis of the first 10 lines of the text. Please see the previous video before this one. There are some modern critical approaches discussed in this video, so please watch till the last. I hope you will enjoy the text. The text that we are going to discuss is Tonight I Can Write Part 2 by Pablo Neruda. Pablo Neruda, as I have already discussed in the previous video, belonged to the generation of 1927. Generation of 1927 is a group of Spanish poets who influenced the international literature in a havoc way. Pablo Neruda was the international figure and the national poet of Chile. Chile, this part of South America. He was a Nobel laureate. He won Nobel Prize in Literature in 1971. Actually, Pablo Neruda was an internationally known figure, but in November 2018, the Cultural Committee of Chile's lower house voted in favor of renaming Santiago's main airport after Neruda. So this is the airport of Chile, Santiago. The decision sparked protests from feminist groups who highlighted a passage in Neruda's memoirs in which he described raping a maid in Ceylon in 1929. Several feminist groups, bolstered by the growing Me Too and anti-femicide movement, stated that Neruda should not be honored by his country. Today, Neruda remains a controversial figure for Chileans and especially for Chilean feminists, and they consider this great poet as a rapist. However, love and life was viewed by this great figure in a different way. He said, "If nothing saves us from death, may love at least save us from life." And he also said, "A child who does not play is not a child, but the man who does not play has lost forever the child who lived in him and who he will miss terribly." Now let us have a look at the very imageries and the verse pattern used in the poem Tonight I Can Write. The poem is a free verse without rhyme or rhythm, written in a simple and concise language understood by all. The night imagery and the nocturnal atmosphere has been presented, and the imageries continue in the following lines: with endless skies due to the pasture and night whitening the trees. The imagery makes us feel the sadness of the speaker acutely because he is rejected, and the love which was in glowing form once is lost by the poet. And repetition is another factor. Many lines in this poem are repeated. The title of the poem itself is repeated 3 times through the poem. Then the line like "I loved her and loved me and she loved me sometimes" are also seen to be repeated. These repetitions put an emphasis on the feeling of the speaker and portray the state of their love while it lasted. It puts an emphasis on the melancholy and sadness of the speaker's feelings. There is deliberate juxtaposition of the emotions accompanied by adjectives that make us believe that it is the woman's rejection that becomes the poet's inspiration to write. It is the pain that produces poetry. So the sincerity in love, loving in truth, a famous sonnet by Sir Philip Sidney, in which the pain produces poetry, and it is also the case, though in a different manner, to Pablo Neruda. The reiteration of the word lust in the final lines of the poem are again the young man's need for some kind of revenge. His poem, a gift to her for leaving behind the memories that allow him to compose. He might have loved her for a short time, but forgetting her has taken too long. His soul still searches for her. The pangs of separation still pierce his heart. And the poet vows that this is the last time he writes for her. He does not appear to be so sure, however, nor are we. and this lends universality to Tonight I Can Write. Neruda's poems are full of easily understood images, but they make no less beautiful. He said, "Tonight I can write the saddest lines." But the question that comes to our mind, what are these saddest lines? The saddest lines are about his lost love. He is not with me, she is not with me, and my sight searches for her as though to go to her. My heart looks for her, and she is not with me. This is all the poet sums up his present situation. But is this really all? The poet misses her. The same night whitening the same trees, we of that time are no longer the same. So the present and the past amalgamate, and in this way the poet recapitulates, remembers the beloved, and wants to get her. Now let us start the text. In this slide we will see the lines 11 to 18. Tonight I can write the saddest lines, to think that I do not have her, to feel that I have lost her, to hear the immense night, still more immense without her, and the verse falls to the soul like dew to the vesture. What does it matter that my love could not keep her? The night is shattered and she is not with me. This is all. And in the distance someone is singing. In the distance my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. So the pangs and pains of the lost love is again presented in these lines. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. আজ রাতে আমি চরমতম দুঃখের লাইনগুলো লিখব. To think that I do not have her, এটা ভেবে যে সে আর আমার কাছে নেই. To feel that I have lost her. So this is the feeling, so this is the thinking, and these are the saddest lines. Actually the line number 11, Neruda, which repeats the opening line, becomes a plaintive refrain. The melancholy tune of the line strikes us. The repetition of that line shows how the speaker is struggling to maintain the distance, because we know the theme of distance is presented through these lines, and this is a recurring theme. So the repetition of that line shows how the speaker is struggling to maintain distance, to convince himself that enough time has passed for him to have the strength to think about his lost love. To think that I do not have her means the love is lost. It becomes almost unbearable to think that I don't have her means I have lost her. To feel that I have lost her. This loneliness is reinforced by the immense night. This loneliness is further emphasized by the immense night. The similarity of the moods, the plaintiveness, the sad tune, the alienation and loneliness of the lover is reinforced. Still more immense without her. Yet the poetry that he creates helps replenish his soul, because the verse falls to the soul like a dew to the pasture. So the pain is immense, the night is immense, which has the same mood and the match of the poet's mood, but the poetry, the verse that he creates helps replenish the soul like a dew to the pasture. When the pain he experienced had blocked the creative energies of the past, he is now able to write about their relationship and find some comfort in the verse that falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. ফলে খানিকটা হলেও স্বস্তি তিনি পাচ্ছেন। ফলে এই সৃষ্টি, এই কবিতা তাকে কিছুটা হলেও তার আত্মাকে শান্তি দিচ্ছে। দিস ইজ দ্য এক্সাম্পল অফ সিমিলি, ফিগার্স অফ স্পিচ, মেটাফর্স, simile and the irony have been mixed, though in a different way. In the line number 15, the speaker refuses to analyze their relationship. What is important to him is that the night is starry and she is not with me. So the poet says, what does it matter that my love could not keep her? So it is of no matter to him as the love is lost. The speaker refuses to analyze their relationship and he is totally upset. The night is shattered because the night is traumatized as she is not with him. As the lady has rejected him, the condition of the night and the condition of the poet both are traumatized. This is all. In the distance someone is singing. So this is all. This is central to him. When the speaker hears someone singing in the distance and repeats in the distance. He repeats in the distance. So distance is the recurring theme. I have already told it. And the repetition of the distance reinforces the fact that he is alone. Again, the modern aspect, alienation, is further emphasized. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. So this is the unsatisfaction due to the lost love. But the poet is sincere, the lover is sincere to his love, and he frankly speaks out his heart that my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. Actually, nature became the primary subject for the romantic poets like William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, who turned to the natural world as a respite from society and culture and as a more appropriate guide to spiritual concerns. Pablo Neruda adopted a romantic vision in the 20th century in Tonight I Can Write in his use of nature as a reflection of the spiritual and emotional. He says the night is shattered, the immense night, still more immense. So the spiritual and personal, the emotional has become embedded with nature. Yet in this poem, Neruda's use of nature becomes more complex. In the speaker's lyrical evocation of his relationship with the woman he has loved and lost, he and the woman became almost indistinguishable from nature, as if they are part of the nature. The lover's passion and despair thus transcend the human and achieve the cosmic. So Neruda's use of nature is complex and he has adopted the very romantic view and the romantic aspect of the romantic vision, though in a different way. Manuel Duran and Marjorie Safir, in their book Earth Tones, the poetry of Pablo Neruda, note that in all the poetry of Neruda's 20 love poems and a song of despair, nature does not enter for itself alone, but rather nature and woman are seen as two aspects of the same reality. The beauty and strength and mystery, at times terror of nature, and the beauty, strength and mystery of woman are but mirrors of one another. In 20 love poems and a song of despair, nostalgia, love of nature and love of women are united in a single strand, and nowhere do we find the detached contemplation of nature itself. Marjorie Agosin, also in her book on Neruda, comments, the image of the woman takes on a transcendental importance in 20 love poems, for she is associated with the elements and the earth. She is the earth mother, a notion established by the romantic poets of the last century, but which Neruda makes more immediate and secular. Woman who plays with the world and resembles that world elevated to a cosmic level is cast in images of the surrounding natural landscape, sky, water, earth. In Tonight I Can Write, the speaker fuses the spiritual beauty of nature with that of the woman he loved, her great pale eyes and infinite eyes that no one could help but love. And that is the case with the beloved. Now we will read out lines number 19 to 26. My sight searches for her as though to go to her. My heart looks for her and she is not with me. My sight searches for her as though to go to her. My heart looks for her and she is not with me. The same night whitening the same trees, we of that time are no longer the same. I no longer love her, that's certain, but how I loved her. My voice tried to find the wind to touch her hearing, another's, she will be another's, like my kisses before. Her voice, her bright body, her infinite eyes. So the poet in these lines expresses the longing to reunite with his love. His sight and his heart try to find her, but he notes she is not with me. So again he gets the pain, and that pain, alienation, separation runs through whole of the poem. The poet's sight and the heart looks for. Look for means search. Look for means the phrasal verb search. His sight searches her, his heart searches her, but he realizes that she is not with me, she is not with the lover. Yet he understands that they are no longer the same. The same night whitening the same trees. He remembers the night. He remembers the night means the past and present nights, reveals the change that has taken place. He remembers the same night refers to the night of the past and the present. The night is same because they are whitening the trees, but the lovers have changed. They are no longer the same. He decides that, he declares that he no longer loves her, and that is certain. I no longer love her, that is certain. But how I loved her. He remembers he loved her greatly in the past. So the speaker in a lonely night under the vast sky, he seems to encompass his loneliness. The sky and the earth merge with each other. I no longer love her, that is certain, but how I loved her. My voice tried to find the wind to touch her hearing. The intensity of passion has been expressed. Again, linking the relationship to nature, he explains that he had tried to find the wind to touch her hearing, but failed. In Tonight I Can Write, Neruda fuses the images of nature with the unforgettable sentiment of first love, and so creates a moving lyrical evocation of its passion and agony. The intensity of passion and agony both mingle together, and the very simple language express the sincerity of the lover, of the speaker. So he is now jealous, and he must face the fact that she will be another's. She will be another's. She will be another's beloved. He remembers her bright eyes, the bright body, the infinite eyes, bright body that he knows will be touched by another, and her infinite eyes that will look upon a new lover. So the speaker becomes a kind of jealous lover now, after the love is lost. On some level, the poem absolutely resists interpretation and analysis. It is so simple, so direct, so honest, that there is very little to unpack. Everything is told, everything is meant, everything is hinted. The modern poet, but he does not keep the very dishonesty, as if the complexity and dishonesty are the very characteristics of the lovers, of the modern lovers. But the speaker here is very frank. Indeed, few students have difficulty understanding the poem, and few critics have made it the focus of their critical attention. The poem's language is accessible, and unlike many modernist texts, it explores emotion that every reader can relate to. Any lover, any reader who has experienced in this way must remember or must admit the very emotion expressed by the poet. So therein lies the very charm of Neruda's poem. He remembers, the speaker remembers the lover's voice, the bright body and infinite eyes. Actually, the infinite eyes, again, just like the infinite sky, the vast, endless sky, he wanted to love endlessly. But alas, the love is lost. The next lines, line number 27 to 32. I no longer love her, that's certain, but maybe I love her. Love is so short, forgetting is so long. How fantastic the line is. The ever-quoted line, love is so short, forgetting is so long. Because through nights like this one, I held her in my arms, my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. Though this be the last pain that she makes me suffer, and these the last verse that I write for her. So the pains of love will be ended. The poet says, this is the last verses that I write for her. I no longer love her. The speaker reiterates, I no longer love her, that's certain. But immediately contradicts himself, uncovering his efforts at self-deception when he admits, but maybe I love her. So he contradicts himself. With a world-weary tone of resignation, he concludes, love is short, so short, forgetting is so long. His poem, Neruda's poem, has become a painful exercise in forgetting. In line 29, he explains that because this night is so similar to the nights of his memory when he held her in his arms. Because through nights like this one, I held her in my arms, my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. The night is similar. It is the memory when he held her in his arms. He cannot forget because forgetting is so long. Thus he repeats, my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. In the final two lines, however, the speaker is determined to erase the memory of the beloved and the memory of her. So is his pain insisting that his verse, means this poem will be the last verses that he writes for her. Actually, it suggests that the production of the poem will somehow eradicate the pain, as it was the case in Loving in Truth, the poem by Sir Philip Sidney. So the production of the poem will somehow eradicate or remove the pain of the lover. Yet readers who have experienced the pain of lost love know better. There is a lingering sense of torment in these last lines. Who knows whether the verses was the last one or not, or it would be the case the last pain. But there is a great question mark whether it is the last pain or whether it is the last verse. So this is the poem in which the theme of distance, theme of alienation, the theme of memory and remembrance, the theory of love and forgetting, theme of alienation, theme of contradiction have been used. And this poem succeeds because it, like love, like human emotion, cannot be quantified, classified or confined poem. In other words, tonight I Can Write reflects high modernist principles while simultaneously transgressing them. These are a few modernist approach which makes the poem a special one. So please do listen these approaches. Number 2, the classic motif of modernism is the presence of absence, as it is in the case of Waiting for Godot by Waiting for Godot is a absurd drama. That is the realization that absence can become a palpable presence. Rainer Maria Rilke's archaic Torso of Apollo Wallace Stevens' Snowman, William Carlos Williams' This Is Just to Say, and T.S. Eliot's The Hollow Man all create a landscape in which the absence of a head or plums or life itself morphs into a disturbing presence. In Neruda's poem, the text's very presence is contingent on the absence of the woman in question. If she and the poet were still together, there would be no need for such a poem. Indeed, Neruda spends the entire poem reminding us of the woman's absence. Another point, because of the increased urbanization of the West, the advent of telephones and radio, the residual fragmentation following First World War, and the popularity of Freudian, Darwinian and Nietzschean thought, individuals, particularly artists, felt themselves alienated from the rest of the society. So alienation in works like James Joyce's Ulysses, Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, Robert Frost Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, SD is Eurydice Stevens' Sunday Morning, Franz Kafka's The Trial, Yeats says The Second Coming. An individual muses over his or her in estrangement from either another person or society at large. In Tonight I Can Write, Neruda establishes the ubiquitous alienation of the individual. Not only is the speaker alienated from his love, but so is he divorced from nature, which is itself inscribed with her absence. To hear the immense night, still more immense without her. The night is starry and she is not with me. Though the writer does not seem to enjoy experiencing feelings of alienation, almost always it is the genesis for art. The writer uses his text as a means of connection and exchange otherwise unavailable to him. Neruda's poem is no different here. Though he uses the medium of poetry to convince himself that his isolation is not only temporary, but an occasion to write the saddest lines possible. So, alienation. And the next point is autotelism. Tonight I Can Write embodies autotelism. The autotelism is the belief that a work of art is an end in itself and its own justification, for better or worse. Many modernist texts do not signify outside themselves. When Gabriel in Joyce's short story, The Dead, claims that literature is above politics, he defines the view of a generation of writers. Later in his life, Neruda will completely reverse its stance, but in these early poems, the alpha and omega of poetry is the poem itself. Political concerns, cultural criticisms, economic warnings do not enter the poems at all. The poem becomes itself. It means itself. For many, there was no world outside of the text. Indeed, for the speaker of the poem, there is no world outside of his emotional sphere. The obsessions, anxieties, desires of the individual almost always take precedence over the concerns of society. And while Tonight I Can Write does engage common private emotions, it does not necessarily engage larger public interests. Another point, in modern poems by Pound or Stevens or Eliot or Hartprane, one encounters some very difficult language and archaic allusions. Often the tone is lofty, reverent, and even scholarly. Such is the case in Eliot's The Wasteland or Pound's Hugh Selwyn Moberly. But in Neruda's poem, the language is downright conversational. The poem is contradictory, and at times the speaker seems unsure of his emotions. To express such common and such strong emotions without succumbing to cliché or sentiment or cloying language is an amazing achievement. Next, sincerity makes the poem unique. The poem's effectiveness, the reader's empathy with the sincerity of the poetic voice, derives from the fact that this is a composition unlike any other. Compare, for example, the voice of J. Alfred Prufrock with the voice of the speaker of this poem. Both poems attend to complex emotions surrounding romance and love, but Neruda's is clearly more vulnerable. So, the very sincerity, the honesty makes this modern poem an unique one. The last point that I will discuss about the poem is that Neruda was surely ahead of its time, though many critics can comment differently. In fact, in this poem also and in others, he predicts certain aspects of postmodernism, most notably questions of textuality and referentiality. Tonight I Can Write is utterly aware of itself as a poem. It refers to its own poemness, its own composition. It repeatedly refers to itself as a poem in progress, not a finished piece. Because Neruda knew the poem is a process, not a production. it is a process. So the poem is in progress, not a finished one. And that's why Neruda establishes his position in the sphere of poetry, rather emotional ones or emotional poetry. So thank you guys. Thank you. If you like this video, please comment, share, and if you are new to this channel, please subscribe. Thank you again for watching this video.